Hello and welcome back to Ross Taylor Woodworks. This time we're going to do a butcher block top. I've got a little butcher block top to make for a small table, 33 inches square by 1.5 inches thick. What we're using here is hard maple. We're going to using roughly 20 board feet total. And so what we need to do is make some narrow strips. The best way to do that is to glue up some boards into a wide panel, and we can rip our narrow strips out of that big wide panel. I'm going to make 3 panels about 29 to 30 inches wide. The boards from the sawmill come 8'6", so I'm just able to squeeze out 3 pieces out of each length and rough cutting to 33.5 inches. Okay, now we're going to go to the jointer and joint one face and then square both edges off that one face. Doing my dry glue up here of one of the panels. This is the first panel. And the idea here is we're going to glue up panels I calculated about 29 to 30 inches wide. So we're going to do 3 of those panels about that same width. And we glue these up, we'll make sure the bottoms are flush. And also make sure the one end is completely flush, since we have very little to work with. My finished dimension is 33, so I have to be very, very careful. And just a pencil-sized bead right down the middle. Make sure we've got our one end lined up perfectly here. And we're going to check, make sure we're even on the bottom. In the middle. Okay, we've got our panels all glued up, and I scraped the glue off the bottom. Now I'm going to rip approximately 43 strips, 1 3/4 inches wide. Now we're going to take each one of those strips and joint the face again. When ripping down boards, sometimes there's stresses in the wood and they can be a little bit twisted. Now we take those strips and plane them down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, we got all our strips planed down. Now I was just double checking the width, and came out just right. Now the next thing is start gluing up the strips on edge like this. And the best way to do that is to break it up into small groups. It's impossible to glue this up all at once. And plus we have to plane down. This is 1 3/4, it has to be planed down to 1.5 inches. Group these up so they're less than 8 inches wide. So we'll end up with like 4 or 5 groups. Alright, now we scrape the glue off one face of those slabs. Okay, back to the jointer, and we're going to joint one face that we scraped down. Now we take the slabs and plane them down to about 1 9/16. Okay, now we run them through the drum sander and finish dimensioning them to 1.5 inches. Now back to the jointer one last time to joint the edges. Alright, we've got our slabs all prepped and ready to go. Ran them through the drum sander to clean up the surface before we glue it together. That saves a lot of effort sanding it down later. Also cut each piece to length, plus 1/8 of an inch, so it gives me a little bit of room to joint down the edges. I can run them through the jointer and clean up the edges later and get down to the final dimension. We got our butcher block all glued up. The joints are nice and even. Running the pieces through the drum sander first really saves a lot of sanding later. Then we'll trim the edges. Then do all the sanding, starting with the 60 grit and the random orbit up to 150 grit.